Welcome everyone to the Estates and Trust Subcommittee. Today we are discussing one bill, which is Delegate Scott Phillips' House Bill 738, Transfer on Death Deed Establishment. Ms. Good or Mr. Necki, would you be willing to give a extremely brief overview of the bill and what the amendments achieve?
Yeah, I can jump in. And specifically, we're talking about the most recent set of Senate amendments or the House. I think they've been incorporated in both, correct?
I think so.
Fingers crossed. So I'll proceed with that. So very briefly, what the act does is it allows an individual to transfer their property at death to a designated beneficiary. There is currently a mechanism to do that in Maryland, but it is more complicated and has, in general, it requires an attorney to do the life estate deed with powers. And so this is a much more straightforward one sheet piece of paper kind of deal. The amendments in general some of them are just conforming amendments to make sure that the act makes sense and that it doesn't pose any issues from a drafting perspective. But there are a handful of other issues that we addressed after conversations with stakeholders. So I'm looking at a sheet that has a bunch of ones that are much more detailed. So we changed some old references to life estate deeds with powers to make that transfer on death deeds. Obviously, that's not going to be a concern, I would think. There was a concern about so this act includes a frequently asked questions document, and so that's likely not going to be on the other side of that paper. So we stated that that is just a separate document that people need to refer to. There were a couple instances where we changed transferor to owner, and then additional lines for the legal description, additional lines for a second owner, since many properties will be transferred from two owners. And I'll just briefly go over how that works if you have joint ownership with right of survivorship. So that would be if you own with your spouse and one of you dies, then the property will transfer only once the second one has died. So I want to make it clear that two people can sign this together if they're joint owners, but it won't have any effect until both have died. So we were adding some additional lines to make it clear that that's something that this statute does authorize. On the legal description, that was a suggestion from our friends at MVLS. They said that the legal description is obviously often much more than just one line. So we want to make it clear to folks that this isn't just restating the address. This is a more elaborate legal description. We added in the preparer's statement because that's required for all deeds in Maryland. We want this to be treated exactly the same as all other deeds. We slightly reworked some of the FAQs. So there's a new direction on how to find that legal description, because that was a concern that we were hearing from the community, that people may not know what that is or where to find it. We tinkered with an FAQ about secrecy. We changed secrecy to non-disclosure. There's a new FAQ about how the beneficiary can record the notification form. And that notification form is really the big issue here. That's the bulk of the amendment. So in consultation with our friends in the title industry and recognizing that the taxing authority will likely want this notification form, it's going to make it more seamless for everyone. It's ideally going to avoid tax sales. There's a death notification form to be used by the beneficiary, where the beneficiary, once the transferor has died, they'll create this death notification form. They'll sign it, they'll have it notarized, and then they'll file that in the property records, and that will be transferred over to SDAT. So the death notification form is really the most substantial change here. So I ask that you take a particular look at that.
Thank you very much. And Mr. O'Connell, if you don't mind, if I can switch to you, I believe these amendments address some or most or all of your concerns, but would you mind speaking to that, please?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. I didn't make the rookie mistake. They've done a great job. This bill is really I'm pleased with it. I do have a couple questions that I just want to make sure that it maps out correctly, because if we look at, there's just a couple areas that I'm not sure we addressed, but maybe we did, and I'm just not seeing it. If we go all the way down to 109, 14, 109, it says that, just for background, joint owners under the bill is a joint tenancy and a tenancy by the entirety. So if we go all the way down to the real concern I have is with 108. But before we get there, I just wanted to show you this, and this may be, I may be answering my own question. But if you go down to D1 and 109, or 14109, it says that if a transfer on is a joint, if a transferor is a joint owner and is survived by one or more joint owners, the property that is the subject of the transfer on death deed belongs to the surviving joint owners or owners with right of survivorship. So the way that I read that is, let's say A and B hold title as joint tenants, or even maybe tenants by the entirety. The A executes a transfer on death deed, but B doesn't. And A dies before B, then that transfer on death deed isn't going to have any effect at all. It's a nullity. But if B were to die first and A survived, then the transfer on death deed would be effective. So now if we go up to 108, I think it's D. Hang on. Where are we? 108.
And it's 1008, just in case anyone's following along.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. It took me a second.
Okay, so if we go down to, actually it's C. So if a transfer on death deed is made by more than one transferor, a revocation by a transferor does not affect the deed as to the interest of another transferor. Okay, so now if I go to 2, it says a deed by joint owners is revoked only if revoked by all living joint owners. So does that mean that the way I'd have to read this is that if a transfer on death deed was executed by 2 people who hold title as tenants in common, that means there's no right of survivorship, then one of them alone, I'm guessing, could or one of them alone could execute a TODD, and then it would be effective on their death. So they would, the other tenant in common would hold title with the transferee. But a deed by joint owners, so now it's executed by A and B. Now, even if they're joint, they'd have to be under the statute. A joint owner is a tenants in common. I mean, a tenants by the entirety and a joint tenant. That would require both of them to revoke the deed by some act, either a conveyance or a revocation. But then if we go down to D, it says this subsection or this section does not limit the effect of an inter vivos transfer of the property. So now I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? So if I, as a joint tenant, I can sever the tenancy of a joint tenancy by either taking some act that severs the tenancy, or I can convey my interest and the tenancy's destroyed. But so I'm just like, I'm trying to map this out. If I'm as a joint tenant, I execute a deed, I convey it to my portion to somebody else. Does that deed take effect even if I've already executed a transfer on death deed with my co-owner? I don't know. Because if I'm going to because the previous section says I can only do it if both of us join in the deed. So
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Yes, Ms.
Because I
Good.
think these do align, and maybe it's adding one word to one of those subsections. So for section 14-1008, subpart C2, That's referring, when it's saying a deed by joint owners is revoked only if it's revoked by all living joint owners. It's referring to a transfer on death deed. So maybe clarifying that to say a transfer on death deed by joint owners is revoked only if revoked by all living joint owners is that, I don't know if that's the clarity you're looking for, because I think everything flows and is consistent.
No, I think that the word deed is used throughout, I believe, to refer to the TODD. So that wasn't my concern. My real concern is, can one joint owner terminate a TODD by an act that's inconsistent with the TODD?
Yeah, if they made a present transfer severing the joint tenancy and transferring their share.
Okay, so that's why the previous amendment that I gave was, I thought, was trying to make that clear, which, so what I suggested was that it's say that for C1, it says a revocation by inter vivos deed by a transferor does not affect the deed as to the interest of another transferor. And then I said in number 2, a deed by joint owners is revoked by an instrument of revocation only if it's revoked by all living owners, because we have a document that's a form document that's a instrument of revocation. So it's like, we both executed this TODD and we're both going to execute this instrument of revocation. That's what I thought we were trying to get to, or I think I thought that's what we meant, but I just didn't see that as one of the amendments. So
I apologize. This is a really important conversation, but we have a also very important meeting beginning now. And this sounds like this will take a little longer than
sorry.
5 or 10 minutes. No, it's important. It's why we wanted to meet. And I apologize for not having more time. So yes, please, Delegate Phillips. Yeah.
Yep. Mr. O'Connell and Ms. Good, we really, needless to say, we're running, the clock is ticking. The clock is really ticking.
I don't want to screw this up. I just want to make sure we just do it right.
I understand. Can the two of you, so let me make sure, do we have any other issues or concerns?
The only other one that I'm trying to wrap my head around is at 14-1008A. The revocation has to be recorded before death. And so I can see this happens from time to time. I can see that people die between the time they've executed the inter vivos deed and delivered it, and then they pass before it actually makes it to record, because in Maryland it could take a week or more to actually make it to record once it's delivered. So I don't know if we need to, because if it doesn't, let's just say it does, the grantor dies or the transferor dies before the inter vivos deed makes it to record, but he's also got a TODD out there. So now I've got a situation where I've got people competing with, well, you didn't actually make it. I get it. So I don't know how we deal with that, but I just pointed out because I have lots of situations where people die before the final act of whatever it is they're doing. So
whatever it is, yeah.
Delegate Phillips, do you mind, just because we need to.
I know we got to get to.
Do you mind working with Mr. Connell and Ms. Good, and then
yes.
We're going to meet anyway next week. We'll spend a little longer, and if there's any new amendments, we'll circulate them. And Delegate Valentine. Yes.
The goal here isn't to stop this. So if we can't figure this out, I'm not going to say, no, don't do it.
No, I understand. I'm sorry we just don't have more time today, but thank you. Delegate Valentine, and then we're going to wrap up.
I just wanted to make sure with the amendments that were discussed earlier, are they been attained? Am I missing something, or were they all theory? Have
No,
they-
they were just, Holly, I
Okay.
think just
Yeah,
sent them
no,
around
I
this
make
morning.
sure, I think they were sent around, but there've been
Okay.
several different versions. So I'm gonna send out the latest and greatest. And then if there is anything else, Delegate Phillips, please send that. But if, I'll send you what we have right now.
Thank
Holly,
you.
is that different from the one you sent this morning?
No,
Okay,
It's
well,
not
all the
those.
rest of that, I'm okay with all those.
Okay.
All those amendments look good to me.
thank you
just-
so much. We're
yeah.
gonna wrap up right now. Thank you all for your
Thank you.
patience, and we'll have more time next week to ask all your